All right, everybody, let's get going. Welcome to Ladies Let's Go Fishing. Thanks. Hi, Megan. Are you in the Keys? You can nod. No?
No, I'm up in the St. Pete.
Oh, okay. Are you still living in the Keys here and there?
Part-time, yeah.
Okay, great. And we have Andrea, who's attending from Germany, and she's also working on some world records for tuna and catching marlin in the Azores. We have Kathy, who has attended Ladies Let's Go Fishing, and she's bidding on our auction. We have Tony, our speaker. I'll be talking about him in a second. We have CB, and there's more people that had signed up that will probably log in. Anyway, thanks on behalf of Ladies Let's Go Fishing. Here's what we have going right now. We have an auction online until December 7th, 7 p.m. and anyone can bid. I know Kathy's already winning some items. And that's at ladiesletsgofishing.com. There's a button on the homepage. We have lots of pin combos. We've got trips to Antigua and Barbados for hotel stays. And just read the description. So for those, they're all inclusive, so you have to pay the per diem meals and beverages like you would if you just went ahead and purchased them online. So be sure to check that out. Lots of apparel, and there we go. Pelagic apparel is on there, and thanks to Tony for from Pelagic for providing great gifts for women to win. And what else is coming up? We have February 3rd, we have Miami Fishing Offshore. March 2nd, we have our freshwater bass seminar at Bass Pro Shop, Staying the Beach. March 23rd to the 24th, we have our Gulf Coast seminar for inshore in Fort Myers. Most of the classes have fishing the last day, and in the Keys, you have a choice of 2 days. April 19th to the 21st, we have our South Florida Saltwater Weekend Seminar Saturday, Fishing Sunday, Offshore, and Party Friday. May 17th to the 19th, we have our Keys Screamin' Reels Tournament. That's fishing and learning on the water. Inshore, offshore, we have prizes, pin combos, and things, and you will really enjoy that. And you can fish inshore and offshore with the kickoff party Friday at the Tavern near Elks. Fishing is out of Islamorada and other areas near there. September 20th to the 21st, we have our Guy Harvey Outpost Bass Seminar at Camp Mac, Lake Wales. There's a tournament. Last year, every girl had a chance to hook a bass, even me. Okay, October 18th to the 20th is our main Grad Daddy event in the Keys with a party Friday, seminar Saturday, party Saturday night, fishing Sunday, and bonus fishing on Friday in Islamorada with the kickoff at the Tavernier Elks. And November 23rd, 24th, we have our St. Augustine Surf Fishing Academy at the Guy Harvey Resort. For the Guy Harvey events, we're still waiting on confirmation, and all else are confirmed. So I know I've seen most of you before, and I hope to see you again. One thing I also would like to start with is a big thanks to our sponsors. If you, Ladies Let's Go Fishing is very important. Sponsors are very important to Ladies Let's Go Fishing. Excuse me, I'm trying to find the share button. 1 second. Let's see here. I want to share my screen. Give me 1 second. They've changed the way this is. Here it is. Okay. Okay. So yeah, if you can see this, we have our shearwater boat, which by the way is on the market because we need to order a new one. Can you all see that? Nod your head if you can. You can't see it?
Nope.
Let me try it again. Oh, okay. Now can you see it?
Yep.
Yay, okay. And we have Shearwater, Mercury, Taco, Take Me Fishing, Vamos a Pescar, Fish Florida Tag, Magic Tilt Trailers, Penn, Fish and Wildlife Conservation Foundation of Florida, Power Pole. Those are our main sponsors. In the Keys, we have Plantation, Boat Mart, and Island Arms, and Indoor Range, and Fidelity Investments with Genie Town. And here's our annual sponsors. I'll just show them on the screen there. And our patron sponsors and our top donors, which you will see Pelagic is there. Okay, so that's that for now. And we thank all the sponsors and hope everybody patronizes them when they have a chance to go fishing and buying. All right. Y'all know what Ladies Let's Go Fishing is all about. So at this time, Tony, if you're ready, let's talk fishing. Tony, by the way, is known for his fishing all over the world, and he's a big purporter and supporter of conservation organizations. And he's also been an on-site speaker at Ladies Let's Go Fishing, as well as the South Florida chapter.
Thank you, Betty. It's great to be here speaking with you ladies, all the way from Germany. That's pretty impressive. What time is it in Germany?
It's 11:30 p.m.
All right. Dedication and nice work on your world record fishing. I used to world record fish back in the day when I was working full-time on sport fishing boats for Laurie Wright. I worked for a gentleman named John Paul Richard on the French hook. And all we did was 2 pound, 6 pound, 8 pound, 12 pound, 16 pound. And occasionally we'd throw out the big stuff, the 20 pound, but we caught several ultralight world records throughout those years. And it was, like you said, it's very addicting and it's very, very challenging. So I know.
And you need to have your stuff together. Yes, you need to learn a lot about gear, a lot about how your boats react, a lot about how to manage your own emotions. Yes. So I fish for 20, 30, and 50 pound test for big fish. Marlins 700-800 plus, and tunas, yeah, 250 plus.
Nice. Yeah, it's fantastic. Well,
as long as I can, you know, we're not getting younger.
Yeah, well, you got to keep doing it, but it's cool. I love it. So I know exactly what you're doing and what you're up to. So anyway, I assume that this could lead into that, but I assume what you're doing a lot of times maybe is are you bait and switch fishing a lot for marlin, where you're fishing teasers and then dropping pitch baits to them?
Yes, I do that, but sometimes we pull lures. In the winter, I use more live bait, like on tunas.
Yeah.
So it's different kind of fishing, depends on what bait is around, how the weather conditions, and what do the fish like to eat. Because some days you just tuna watching, because they won't pick nothing.
Yeah, they're hard. Sometimes it's hard to get the bite. That's for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Tunas have gotten smarter and smarter throughout the history of, certainly in my lifespan. We used to be able to catch giant tunas on very heavy leader material, 400 or 500 pound leader material with cable, big giant J hooks, and we could catch them all day long. And now if you present something like that to a giant tuna, there's no possible way that they're going to eat anything like it, because they just know it and they pass it down through their generationally as a survival thing. It's called evolution. So anyway, it's very interesting, and it can be very frustrating when you're trying to catch tunas on a hook and line. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about tonight a little bit was it's a little bit tougher to do these things over the internet on Zoom, but I wanted to pick something that I could kind of show some things on the screen. And I wanted to talk just a little bit in general about lures and lure fishing and the effectiveness of it, especially for people who are maybe have a limited time on the water, who don't get to go out all the time on their boats, and when they do, they want to be able to have a good time and produce some fish, and maybe they don't have the capacity for big giant live wells to carry all kinds of pilchards and goggle eyes and threadfin herrings, and they don't necessarily want to go through all the trouble, or there's no wind, for instance, in the summer, and they don't want to kite fish, but they want to go out, they want to catch fish. And lure fishing can be very effective and a very good way, not only to catch fish, but also to locate where fish and where good water is, to where you can lure fish until you find something really good to fish on or fish to, and then you could actually switch over to throwing chunk baits or live baits or fly fishing or anything else once you locate certain things that we'll talk about. We'll start right at the beginning and talk about and when I say lures, a lot of times when I'm fishing with clients right out front here in Fort Lauderdale, that they just want to spend the day in the water. They don't have fancy boats with all kinds of, like I said, all kind of live well pumps, and they don't want to necessarily kite fish or anything like that. You can take 20-pound test, very light conventional tackle, and very easily lure fish. And when I talk about a lure can be anything. And here's my pinky, and this is just a little weighted head, very tiny lure. It weighs probably not even an ounce and a half. It's got a little weight to it, and it would go with a hook, something like this, a very small J hook on a piece of 30-pound fluorocarbon monofilament as a leader, and just that hook and that little tiny lure would be considered a lure that you'd troll around. Something like that comes in various shapes and sizes. Here's another little version of that, but it's got a rounded bullet pointed head, and it's got a little weight to it as well. That's the small micro lures. And then as you graduate up, even in the 20 and 30-pound class, this is a little soft head lure.
Hey, Tony,
Yeah.
can you mention if you know the name of the manufacturers so they know?
This is a Moldcraft soft head lure, very popular lure. They come in all different shapes and sizes, but they're made out of rubber and they're soft. They're hard. They're like a very durable rubber, but they're a soft. The idea is that when a billfish, the gentleman who invented this, Frank Johnson, felt that if a billfish grabbed a softer lure with his mouth and felt a little cushion, it would feel more like a natural bait, and therefore he may hold on to it a little bit longer. He may be might be a little more aggressive with it, or if you pulled the hook or he missed it, the fish may come back more frequently if a lure was made out of a rubber, something soft, as opposed to something really, really hard like that, like a plastic or now we're making a lot of the hard-headed lures are made out of the same material that the canopies for fighter jets are made out of. They're very, very strong, virtually indestructible. But anyway, so that's another size. A simple spoon like this is considered a lure. It can be trolled on very light tackle, and then you can go to an extreme version of a lure, which is something like this, which is almost the length with the skirt and the hook set. It's almost the length from the tip of my finger to my elbow. So this would be something we troll on very heavy tackle for blue marlin and black marlin and big fish. But the point is, it doesn't matter whether you have very heavy tackle and are fishing for giant blue marlins, or if you have lighter tackle and you just want to go out and catch some mahi-mahi or blackfin tuna for the day. There's always going to be different shapes and sizes of lures that you're going to want to use based on the principle, what we call match the hatch. which comes from fresh water. I'm sure you ladies, a lot of you have heard that before, but basically that is when a fly fisherman goes down to the side of a stream, they look to see what shape, color, size, wingspan that the insects that just hatched that morning or afternoon are. And then they take a fly out of their kit that looks very similar to those flies that are naturally there. Same thing goes for lure fishing. If you're fishing where there's a lot of small bait, you want to use smaller lures. If you're fishing where there's bigger bait, you might want to use bigger lures. You might want to try to match the color. Or if you have a lot of flying fish, you might want to try to fish a lure that skips across the surface to kind of mimic a flying fish's motions. But so that's kind of magic hash. But the bottom line is you are able, with the lures, there's a couple things that may give you an advantage over other ways of fishing. So for one, you can generally troll at a higher rate of speed when you're lure fishing and therefore cover more territory. A lot of times what we like to do is we like to set up like a grid around an area and kind of troll over a general square mileage of an area looking for ideal conditions, which might be an eddy or a temperature change or a weed line or a big giant pallet off of South Florida in the Gulf Stream floating, something that fell off a container ship that holds fish, a tree. There's a myriad of things that are out there that if you're just going very slowly, like with dead bait, or if you're kite fishing or live baiting where you're just kind of going with the current, you're going to be limited to how much ground you can cover and therefore less likely to stumble across something that is really worth fishing on. Even spotting something like a frigate bird that's moving and locating fish, you can, if you're trolling lures, you can move at a much quicker pace. You don't have to, you can look forward and around the boat more at looking for various things in the water and looking at your electronics for temperature changes, looking for birds, looking for things floating in the water. You don't have to be as attentive to your baits like with a dead bait or a live bait where you're actually having to drop back and feel the bite and all that. A lot of time with lure fishing, fish grabs the lure and is hooked right out of the outrigger or right off the tip of the rod. And then, of course, you don't have to keep changing baits because when a fish comes up like a barracuda or a kingfish, you either catch him or you miss him, but he's not going to cut your bait in half and therefore make you have to reel in your line, change the bait, go through another bait. You don't even have to carry bait if you're fishing lures, which is an expense, or buy live bait if you don't want to. So there's a lot of reasons to fish lures, and especially out here in the summertime when fishing can be slow, it's a good way to cover territory and find schools of mahis and weed lines and things like that. And the other thing is there's really no speed that's too fast to troll lures. So if we're trolling a lure like this, which is specifically designed to be fished on heavy tackle, you can see it's a very pointy nose. And if you were here, you could feel it's very heavy. There's a weight in it. This is specifically for high-speed wahoo fishing, where we put big weights in front of it. And the lure is actually 7, 8 feet, 10 feet below the water. And we're trolling at speeds up to 17 knots. So that's it's like 20 miles an hour. It's very, very fast. So when you're trolling at 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 miles an hour, as long as you choose lures that are prone to staying in the water and looking good, you can basically troll lures at whatever speed that you want to troll them at, and you'll get bites. We used to travel quite a bit when we do all this world fishing in Venezuela and Costa Rica and Panama and all the other places in the Atlantic or just on the other side in the Pacific. We traveled to all those places back in the day on our own bottoms. Back then, we didn't have these big ships that you can put your boat on and ship it over to Costa Rica. There was no resorts or anything over there. So we would take the boats through the Panama Canal and go there. And every place was like that. We went everywhere on our own bottom. I even went to Chile on the Tyson's Pride on our own bottom, from Merritt's Boat Works in Pompano Beach all the way to the lower coast of Chile, sword fishing without getting a ride. But everywhere we would go, the point is, everywhere we go when we were traveling, a lot of times to save fuel, we would run our boat at like a 10, 11, 12, 9, depending what the best fuel consumption was, 10 knots. We'd call 10 knotting it. And we always had at least 2 rod and reels set up with lures out. And you would be surprised, even at really high rates of speed, what you would consider a high rate of speed for a lure, we would catch and hook all kinds of monster fish and varying fish. So lure fishing is very, very, very effective. It's a really cool history. It's a big part of the history of fishing, as far as the guys and the girls who created the first lures, and going way back to prehistoric times with different things that were carved out of wood, and even the old Hawaiian hooks in some ways could be considered a lure because of their shapes and how they would dart and twist in the water. So it's very, very cool. And we've got some really great classic lure makers that are alive today around us. We have in Hawaii, a lot of lure makers in Hawaii are very well known, like Bart Miller, who passed away a few years ago, and Henry Chi, and there's just a wide variety. And one of the guys that he's still with us, he's 88 years old, is a guy by the name of Joe Yee. And this is an example of one of his handmade lures that he makes. I've got a really cool one with some mother and pearl in it here that he made for me. But there's just a really cool history, and these lures are all the old school guys who really understand how a lure works. These are all handmade. They're all on a lathe, and they're hand sanded. There's certain types of weight that they inlay down in the belly. Sometimes some are lighter than others. You can see that the shape of the head has a certain slant to it. There's a certain circumference to the lure. All these are things that go into the creation of a lure. And referring to my last point about being able to cover ground and territory, depending on the shape of the head, doesn't matter what size lure you're picking, but the shape of the head and the size of the lure basically are going to determine whether it stays in the water at the desired rate of speed or not. So obviously a lure like this, which isn't a big lure, this could be trolled on 30 and 50 pound tests. It's a metal head. It's got some jet heads in it. You can see this is meant to kind of go just below the surface. I control this lure up to 15 knots or so with no weight in front of it or anything, and it's going to be effective. And then when you get to a lure that has a bigger lure like this, it does have a curve to it, but again, this is more for heavier tackle. It's not going to really be able to pull correctly if you fish this on 30 pound or less, because it weighs so much. So the weight of the lure and size of the lure relates to the size tackle. You probably wouldn't start trolling this until you got to be at least 50 pound. And this lure is more like a 80 pound test, 130 pound test, big, very big game lure. And then you could have a lure like this, which is a soft head, a bigger one of the one I showed you earlier. Here's a good example. These are the same lure company, Moldcraft Soft Head. And you can see this smaller one, I don't know if you can see on film, but it kind of has like a scoop. It's got like a scoop to it. The head of it's scooped out so that it can catch air. And what that does is that makes that lure really, when you put it at the desired speed or the perfect speed for it, it really makes that lure trap air and smoke and bubble. And then you have a lure like this, same company, a big one, you can see it's got holes in it, but that's a completely flat head. No matter what I troll this lure on, no matter what size lure I have this, if it's a flat head like that, it's going to be very difficult for that to stay in the water at any high speed, especially if there's any chop or roughness to the water. So flathead lures are mainly going to be for calmer weather or calmer water or big swells, and you're probably going to troll them between 7 and 8 knots, whereas a more pointed lure you control quite a bit faster. Here's an example of something that could be easily trolled on 20-pound or 30-pound tests. It's just a very small hard head lure. It's got a long, it's called a stick. We would call this a stick bait almost, because it's got a very long head to it. And you can see this manufacturer has glued a couple of wings on either side. So it makes it kind of mimic a flying fish when it's in the water and skipping on the top. And very effective on light tackle. The other thing we do is there's when we rig a lure, we're using various types of hooks and stuff. Mainly when we're dead bait fishing or live bait fishing nowadays, we use what's called a circle hook. I know you guys have probably been through this. Here's an example of a circle hook. Here's a smaller circle hook, but those are both circle hooks, and you can see the shape. And then I'll hold up a similar size, what would be considered a somewhat similar size J hook. And you can see that the J hook is shaped. I'm gonna hold this down here a little bit. The circle hook has a lot of different angles to it, even in the shaft of the hook. Whereas the J hook is just like the name says, it's a J. This hook, a J hook on a live bait or a dead bait, can be very deadly to a fish that you intend to release. If it's a fish you're trying to capture and kill, a lot of times a J hook can be more effective because it'll do damage to the fish's internal organs, its throat, things like that, and you can catch the fish quicker and easier if you're intending to kill it. Whereas a circle hook is made to hook billfish and tunas and just about any other fish in the corner of the mouth so that no internal damage is done. Therefore, when the fish is released, it has a much higher rate of survival. A matter of fact, if everything goes right and you're doing everything right, if you're catching them the right way, reviving them the right way, spending the proper time, you'll have up to a 98% survival rate when you're releasing fish on circle hooks, whereas with a J hook, your survival rate is going to be somewhere around 60, a lot of time, maybe 50, 60, 65%. So that's a huge difference. However, it's all based on the method in which you are trying to hook the fish. So on a dead bait or a live bait, you're free spooling so that you're actually trying to get the fish to inhale and to swallow the bait. And then when the hook gets pulled tight, it either catches them in the stomach or the throat or inside the mouth, or it comes all the way out based on the shape. The shape of this hook has been scientifically designed through many, many years of testing over the years. I actually was fortunate enough in the beginning, in the late 80s and early 90s, to be one of the guys that started doing the research for this type of hook. But we discovered how to make this hook so that it very rarely got caught inside a fish. And it changed everything for us. And then we also found that we could hook a lot more fish if we did it right. Our release numbers, how many fish we hooked and how many we actually brought to the boat, went way up once we figured it out, because we just caught a lot more fish, less pulled hooks, so on and so forth. However, when you're trolling a lure and you're moving the boat forward at 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 knots, when a fish comes up behind it, it's basically, we have a terminology for lure fishing called drag and snag. And so what the fish is doing, it's coming up and grabbing the lure, pulling it out of the clip, and it's coming tight on the drag, and that hook is immediately hooking the fish somewhere in the mouth or just inside the mouth. The fish, you're not trying to have the fish, you're not free spooling it, you're not trying to get the fish to swallow the lure. And so therefore, you can't, a J hook is the right hook to use. It is the hook of choice because a circle hook actually requires you to free spool in order to hook a fish, whereas a J hook doesn't. And so therefore you hook a lot more fish on lures with J hooks, and you don't have to worry about hurting the fish if you're intending to release them, because the method in which the hook is being presented and the fact that it's moving forward and the fish is trying to chase it down and just grab it with its mouth. You know, a lot of times fish will grab something in the wild with their mouths, and once they kill it or get a hold of it, then they'll stop in the water and they'll actually, for instance, a billfish, a big marlin that eats a big tuna, like a 10 or 15, 20-pound tuna, he'll grab that tuna and kill it and swim with it for a minute. And once that fish is incapacitated and its spine has been crushed and it no longer can escape, that marlin, if he has the tuna by the side, will actually, just like a bird does with its food with a lizard, he'll take that tuna and he'll turn it around so that it goes head first, and then he'll swallow the entire fish head first. So that takes a minute. That takes a few seconds for that to happen. So lure fishing, the fish gets hooked in the mouth, and one of the very hard areas around the mouth doesn't even cause the fish pain. You have to understand that these fish, when they're eating in the wild, when they chomp down on something, they're having spines and rib cages and everything poking them all over the face and everything else. I've caught fish that have other billfish bills stuck inside in different places in their head or their face, all kind of stuff stuck in their mouths, different spines and things, and it doesn't affect them because they have, that's how they feed naturally. So J hooks. And then what we used to do, we used to use a lot of double hook lures with two hooks in them, like this. Like this giant this lure is specifically made to catch 800, 900-pound plus lure. You would never put this in the water anywhere in the world unless you were like in Hawaii or Madeira and you were fishing 130-pound test and you were trying to catch a big marlin. That's the only thing you'd use for it. But you can see it's got two hooks in the hook set. That used to be very common, and we discovered, again, along with our circle hooks, we're always thinking about try to improve our hookup ratio as fishermen, and we can't help ourselves but try new things. And we started changing things up over the decades, where we'd go with a very, very stiff double hook rig where we'd have a piece of clothes hanger wire in there to really make the two hooks like almost you couldn't move them. Then we graduated to maybe making it a little bit looser. And then we got shrink wrap and heat guns. You can see that's a bunch of shrink wrap that is shrink wrapped to a piece of cable and then to the hook itself. And it's a semi-stiff rig, but you can see it still kind of wiggles around. And it's a single hook. And you can see also that it sits way back in the lure, where in the past we had the hooks up closer to the front and we'd have a double hook. Now we have one hook way towards the back. We actually this is for marlin fishing and big tunas and stuff. We actually set our drag lighter on strike. When the fish grabs the lure, once he grabs and starts swimming off of it, we slowly increase the drag and then drive the hook home, because all these technological advancements like underwater video and just trial and error over the years and writing everything down, keeping a logbook, we just figured out how to improve our hookup ratio. And we found that changing the method around, not that we still occasionally don't do it the old way for certain positions and in certain places around the world, but we found that by doing this, we increased our hookup ratio on marlin fishing anyway from if you were 48 to 53% strictly big lure fishing for marlin back in the 80s, you were going to be in the top 10 or 12% of the fleet for hookup ratio. And now with this other type of hook set, we've increased that to around 70, 71%. You're still going to miss. It's like baseball with lure fishing. You're still going to miss three. You're going to miss 3 out of every 10 marlin that you get a bite from. You're going to pull the hook if you're really, really good. I can tell you a little story. I was in the first season that I was in St. Thomas on the North Drop. I was working for a hotshot captain, and I got the job as first mate and wireman on that boat. And we went to St. Thomas. It was a 46 Merit. And we had this one, we were doing very, very well. Our hookup ratio was really good. It was early in the season. We had this group came into town for 3 days of fishing. And we got 4 blue marlin bites each day, all lure fishing, no baits, all lures. And we caught every single one of them. We went 4 for 4, 4 for 4, and 4 for 4. 12 blue marlin for 12 bites. Well, and then we had 1 day in between that group and the next group that flew in. And I was feeling pretty good. I was 19 years old and I was feeling pretty good. And I figured I had this lure fishing completely figured out and that I was the best in the world at it. And no one was going to tell me differently. And then 24 hours later, we got this new group on the boat. And with the exact same everything, we started that trip off 0 for 13 in the first 2 days. And so I went from thinking I knew everything about lure fishing to thinking that I was a complete idiot in about 48 hours. So it's very important, no matter what type of fishing that you're doing, is to always experiment. And when you're fishing on your boat's going to have different size engines, a different shape hull. You might have different transducers under the boat. You might have a better sound. Fish might be more attracted to your boat at a certain speed. So certain lures might look better in certain places behind your boat. So you really have to pay attention. And when you start lure fishing, really pay attention to where the lures are placed, how they're performing, how I can get 3 or 4 or 5 lures all in the water at the same time, all performing at their maximum ability. And you got a lot of that takes trial and error. And even during the course of a day, you can try to change things around to make everything look as well as you can behind the boat. And I think I'm probably getting to the end of my time, right, Betty?
Oh, you could take another 5 minutes. Everybody.
All right, so while I'm on that
subject,
subject, another thing I would suggest is that if you are trolling lures, even if it's just one on a rope behind your boat, but you'll see this lure here has no hooks in it or anything. And it's a big giant lure, and you don't need to have this one, but this is what we call a teaser. And that's always in the water, really close to the boat. Just as another thing, the idea is you're trying to make it look like a school of fish behind your boat. And when the fish, no matter what species of it, hear the noise of your boat and look up and see the bubbles, they're curious and they want to come and see what all the commotion's about. And they think that it's a school of fish up on the surface. That's where these fish naturally feed, is on the surface, because they trap their bait on the surface. Their bait can't go, if they feed below the surface, the bait can go 100 different directions. If they pin them up on the surface, the bait can't go anywhere. So that's what they're looking for. So you want to have as much stuff in the water as you can that is as easily manageable as you can. So by putting teasers in the water, you don't have to have somebody there, because nothing's going to get hooked, and it's, you're not going to have, it's just kind of a no-brainer to always have at least one teaser tied off with a rope or a bungee cord or something behind the boat to give you that added little profile in the water. Other things you can kind of keep an eye out on for lure fishing. Fish don't necessarily see in bright colors, but they do see in shades. So depending on the clarity of the water you're fishing in, the depth of your water, how the light refraction is reacting, whether it's a cloudy day or a bright sunny day, can all affect how a lure's shading or profile in the water looks to a fish. So A lot of times guys go with darker lures on bright days to really make them stand out, or lighter lures on dark days. I know that, for instance, a lot of blue marlin fishermen on a really overcast cloudy day, they like to have at least one bright pink lure, skirted lure out there, maybe maybe what we call a Halloween lure, which is a black and really, really bright orange. So those are things to keep in mind as well. But mainly lure colors and all the fancy stuff you see on them, that's mainly to catch fishermen. And so we all of us, even knowing that, I mean, if you saw what I had going on over here when I was getting ready, I pulled out some of my old lure bags, and we all have all fishermen, we have way too many lures. But there's a saying, you can never have too many lures or fishing rods. It's just one of those things. But yeah, does anybody have any questions, since I have a few minutes?
I do. What do
Go
some of these lures cost?
So you can, when you're just here locally, we have a guy named Stan Ruhr, who's a local, you know him, don't you, Betty?
I think so.
Old guy, he's retired, old charter boat captain. He goes around, sells these at all the tackle shops. These are some of the most effective lures on 20-pound for a local trolling with a little tiny 5/0 hook. And so these can be like $1.75 to $3.75 a piece. Your typical spoon is probably $9.99 to $12.99, depending on the size of it. And then you can get a lure like this big giant lure, completely rigged with the skirts, with the hook sets, with this leader material, which is 800-pound test, a very, very heavy leader. Actually, it's 600, very heavy. This lure here is probably total around $205, completely rigged, which if you really hold it and look at what it consists of, it's not crazy expensive. Something like this soft head lure is about $20 or so, $25. So it varies in prices. It really, when you're fishing a light tackle and you're fishing like around Fort Lauderdale and for mahis and tunas, there's a lot of small lures that are not really expensive that are on the market that you can buy that are going to be under $20 a piece. When you start getting into the marlin fishing, you can buy knockoffs and cheaper lures even in that category. But the thing is, a fisherman's not building those lures, and you're not going to get the performance out of them like you do with a guy like Andy Moyes or Joe Yee or Bart Miller actually building the lure, because they know exactly what they're trying to, the balance of it. You're just going to get more bites from lures that look better in the water. And then a guy like Joe Yee, being 88 years old, he's not really building that many lures anymore, and they're really popular. He's kind of a legend. So you can go on the internet, look up Joe Yee lures, and guys have like collections of them back from like the 70s and 80s and 60s even. And they can cost, I've seen some Joe Yee lures that are $1,100, $1,200 that are, when they get bought, they're never going to go in the water. They're just going to be bought as just like you'd buy a painting or a sculpture or anything else, just to have as a history. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny. A lot of things go up in cost, and I guess fishing tackle has, but if you compare it to the technology advances with the cost, really, fishing's not a cheap sport, but in relativity to everything else, like the cost of a really good quality custom-made lure has not gone up that much, over the last 10 or 12 years. Not crazy, like double or anything like that. I mean, a few dollars here and there, but.
Do you change the color of your line often, or you just always fish just clear line or black line? And
for leader material or my main line?
your main line.
Main line guys are either going to fish nowadays. Guys are mainly fishing high vis line. There's no there's no proof when you're trolling, especially if you're fishing a 30-foot, you're fishing heavy tackle, you're fishing a 30-foot wind on leader, or even if you're fishing a snap swivel, a bimini twist, and a 30-foot leader, there's no way really that any fish is going to see that line in the, if you're in Costa Rica fishing for sailfish, or you're in Mag Bay fishing for striped marlin, every single boat has bright orange line, because you have to be able to see the line because you have 5, 6, 8 fish on at one time. Now, if guys are fishing, let's say a guy's fishing the Bisbee's Black and Blue tournament or one of these big Hawaiian tournaments, and the purpose is to catch the one biggest blue marlin that's out there, and they don't care about any other bites or any other fish or anything else, then those guys are probably going to fish like a blue or a smoky blue or a clear mainline, just because they want to, a 1,000-pound fish didn't get to be 1,000 pounds by being stupid. It would be and so any possible thing that could possibly be a deterrent from that fish, which is a needle in a haystack to find it anyway, they're going to do that. So that would be the situation where you'd have clear line. But I don't see any issue with having some kind of high vis line for most of your lure trolling, for sure. Obviously, your leader material could be, is going to be monofilament or fluorocarbon, depending on what you're doing. I'd say a little tip: if you're fishing really light leader material, like you're fishing around Fort Lauderdale, and you're fishing some of these smaller little baits and sea witches and things, and you're using like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50-pound test as your leader material, even 60 or 80-pound test as leader material, I would use Pink Andy monofilament as my leader material. One, it's a very, very durable line. They've been making monofilament for a long time. They know what they're doing. And then two, the color red or something that's tinted red, when you put it in the water, like in a tank, and they do all these color things, red disappears in the water column fastest. So if there is something to the fish seeing something, it can't hurt. And it's kind of a go-to standard. It's inexpensive as well. You don't need to go. It's kind of your way around fluorocarbon. If you use Pink Andy, 100-pound and down, based on what you're fishing as far as your size of your hooks and lures and your tackle, that's a good choice for leader material.
Yeah, I use in Florida like a rosé, like a rosa kind. I think I use it was from Cigar Pink Label or something like that.
Cigar Pink Label. Cigar makes a great line. Yozuri Pink makes a good thing. It's funny though. I've been working in this industry a long time, and Betty will tell you, I had a consulting firm for many years called Saltwater Professional Consulting, and I consulted with a lot of major brands that made everything from electronics to boat builders to lures and everything else. And I used to joke around with a buddy of mine that worked for Yozuri. They made this fluorocarbon, and fluorocarbon is supposed to be invisible. It's just invisible itself. And then they came out with this pink Yozuri fluorocarbon that was different than the clear. And I would say, well, what if it's invisible? How could it be more invisible? It's either invisible or it's visible. There's no, you know what I mean? So they're, the tackle companies are always trying to obviously get you to buy stuff and spend money, but Yozuri makes a very quality product, lures and leader material, but it's just funny. But the cheapest way around the leader material is even when you're fishing inshore in clear water for fish that normally you would use fluorocarbon nowadays, you could oftentimes get away with using Pink Andy monofilament, and it's a really, really good all around. I would always have, for instance, I always have a spool of 60-pound Pink Andy in a tackle box or bag wherever I go, no matter what I'm fishing for, whether it's a largemouth bass or a sailfish.
Seaguar provides their Pink Label fluorocarbon for our fundraisers. So on our auction that closes December 7th, we have a whole selection of 25 to 50 pounds. So
I'd buy it.
They show they support women in fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Seaguar makes a really, really good quality all their stuff is quality. Matter of fact, Seaguard, the best thing about Seaguard is they make a really high quality product, and it's a little less expensive than like a Yozuri or some of these other brands that spend a lot of money on marketing, a lot more money on marketing and fancy ads in magazines. Therefore, their line is more expensive. So
Well,
Seaguard,
they also provide braid too. I don't know.
yeah,
if you know
Seaguard makes
braid.
yeah, absolutely. Seaguard makes great braided line as well. They're a great company.
Do you ever use braid?
I don't. Well, yeah, I do all the time. Yeah, we use braid all the time. Matter of fact, now we back even sail fishing on kites out here out front, 20-pound test. Most of our reels are backed, are halfway filled with braid, and then they're packed with monofilament on top. Some guys have even switched over to making, IGFA rules now only requires you have 15 or 5 meters of top shot of mainline. So technically, some guys are putting monofilament, like only like a couple hundred, maybe 300 feet of monofilament on top of braid, and they're for kite fishing so that when the kites are in the air, the braid is off the spool from the tip up to the kite, and it's less friction on the wind, and on a light wind day, it can help you fly your kites a little bit better and not weigh them down as much. But then you got to start making sure you have rods that have guides on them that are really expensive so that the braid doesn't cut through the guide. You have to make sure that your kite clips and the rings and everything you're using on all your kite and terminal tackle everywhere else is of the highest and most expensive quality, because that braided line, when it goes in and out of, I don't care. I've seen it cut through stainless steel cable over a 2-day period. Heavy braid going back and forth on stainless 1,200-pound stainless steel cable and cut it in half. So you got to be careful with that. To me, I'm never going to get that technical when it comes to kite fishing. I'm going to probably fill my reel just for cost and cost effectiveness, and for maintenance wise and just time saving when I change out my line. If I'm fishing a heavy schedule, I'm going to use top shots and have braid underneath, and then I can only have to wind a half a spool on every 6 days or so if I'm fishing a heavy tournament schedule or something. Most of the time when if you're fishing a lot of days, fishing a lot of tournaments, back when I did that, now I'm all Mr. Corporate. I worked for Pelagic full-time in upper management. A lot of guys make fun of me, but I did that for a living when I did that, but I'm making more money than they are too. So, hey, but when I did that for a living, we would change line every 6 or 7 days because we were just fishing every single day. A lot of fish, you remember those years when the Silver Sailfish Derby set those records for how many sailfish were released in those days? We were getting 60 or 80, but every boat out of 50 boats was getting between 30 and 80 bites a day for 5 days in a row. So like in that 5-day period, we changed a lot of line going on and off the reels.
Any other questions for Tony? Okay, well, Tony, thank you very much. It was very interesting for me, because how do you know what kind of lures to bring? You know what I mean? And that was very revealing. And I encourage ladies, if you really don't know, I mean, what do you think, Tony? I mean, just go to a tackle shop, tell them what kind of fish you are going after and your level of experience. And usually there'll be somebody there that will guide you as to what to buy, right?
Yeah.
Just go try.
The other thing you can always
try.
do. Yeah, go try it, but you don't want to get ripped off either. You want to make sure you go to IGFA. Go to the very valuable resource. You go to the IGFA website. You could actually join the IGFA virtual membership free of charge. Now you can get on the IGFA website. You can find every rule. You can look at all these different ways of actually rigging things, rigging lures, all the stuff. Any tackle shop or brand that is associated with the IGFA is generally going to be a reputable person that you can trust to get advice, especially if you say, hey, I saw your information on the IGFA website. So that's a great place to start, is the IGFA.org website, and joining as even a virtual member if you don't want to pay. But you could join for $50 a year, and you get access to all other kinds of really important information. And then Betty, as I've always told you, we've known each other for over 30 years now, and I've done a lot of different things with you. And any of your members, my email and all that is always there for you to see. And if you ever have questions about anything like that, any of your members, especially here locally or in South Florida, can always contact me via email, and I'd be happy to put them in the right direction, make sure they're getting to the right, give them a recommendation for a tackle shop or even a name, and drop a name for them so that someone knows they're coming in. And if there's anything I can ever do to help people have a better experience on the water, that's kind of what I'm about, especially at this point in my career. So,
Well, thank you very much. And I have one last question. Like those smaller lures, they basically go on a leader, and then the leader is tied to a swivel, right? And
it'd
then
either be a very light wind on.
swivel.
A lot of times in the situation where you're using these little lures and they don't pull real heavy, you certainly can use a leader with a loop on the end of it and attach it to a swivel. But
That
if
way
you're
you can switch out lures. All you do is connect and disconnect.
yeah, you could do that.
Retying.
You can. But think about the opposite. I like using a wind on. So it's, if I know how to tie an Albright knot or a double uni knot, and I'm only using 20-pound tests, I could tie a Bimini twist in my 20-pound main line. And then I can take my 60 or 80-pound pink Andy leader material, and I can tie a leader right into that little double line. Now I have no swivel or anything. And then I can have 25 feet or 20 feet or whatever of leader material, which in my opinion, the longer the better. And if I don't have to wire anything or grab onto it because I have a wind on, now when I get that mahi, I can wind it right up to the boat and don't even have to touch the leader, and I can just gaff it. Whereas a swivel, you either have to make a shorter leader because eventually your swivel is going to hit your tip, or you have to have somebody that actually, physically handles the line to get it close enough to gaff or release or whatever. So I'm always, when it comes to light tackle, especially, I'm always a fan of wind-ons. And because at the other end, I'm simply using a hook like this, and basically a lure like this tied to it. If I need to change lures, when I make a 25-foot wind on, I could just basically cut this here, slip another lure on it, and tie a clinch knot back to my hook, and I'm ready to go. I can almost do that as fast or faster as opening and closing a swivel or unwinding a coiled up leader out of my box that has another leader on it. I can almost change my lure quicker. Now, if I'm fishing really heavy tackle, big lures, might be a little bit different. I might want to do it a different way, but light tackle, I'm telling you, there's nothing like wind-ons. Get rid of the swivel. One, the swivel's not trolling through the water, so you have less chance of a kingfish or a barracuda or a wahoo attacking that swivel while you're fighting I've had 20-pound mahis on out here. All of a sudden, a wahoo or a kingfish attacks the swivel because the fish goes on a run and that swivel bubbles through the water, and the wahoo grabbed the swivel. And now I don't catch the wahoo, I lose all my tackle and I lose the 20-pound mahi. So if I don't have that swivel in the water, one, it doesn't that won't happen. Less likely chance of it happening. And then two, I can still reel that fish. I can take advantage of a longer leader. And, a longer leader allows your lure to actually troll better as well. Because the leader material is heavier than your main line. It weighs more. So it has a direct effect on how your lure actually stays in the water. If I use a short piece of lure, a short piece of leader material that's only, let's say, a foot long, and then I go to my main line, my lure is going to act differently if I have a piece of 20-foot piece of that 80-pound leader material that entire 20-foot section weighs a lot more than that 1-foot section. So especially if there's a little chop on the water, my longer leader helps my lure lay in the water better and troll better. So I always say go with a wind on if you can. It's very simple to learn. You have to learn basically 2 knots and you're good to go. A bimini twist and a double uni and a clinch knot. 3 knots. Those are the only, I can tie 25 knots. The only 3 knots I need on the planet ever in my life are a bimini twist, a uni knot, and a clinch knot. And I could tie anything and fish anywhere.
You can buy them already, right? You can buy wind on.
Yep, you could buy wind ons.
Wind on
But those wind ons are usually already have a Dacron loop in them. And then you have to do a spider hitch loop to loop with a double. And those are mainly going to be heavier leader material. They do start at 80 usually. It's much easier to learn the knot and just tie it directly right into your, than buy a pre-made wind on, unless you're fishing heavy tackle.
Okay, ladies, have you learned a lot today? Any more questions? We're going to go on to the raffle drawing then. Let's give Tony a big hand. And thank you, Tony, for joining us and sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor, Betty. Always, anytime. You guys are awesome. Keep fishing. Don't ever stop. One of the greatest things about the sport of fishing is women can kick guys' asses at it. And I'm a big fan of when a guy gets his ass kicked by a lady angler. Betty, I used to work for All Lady Angler. All the boats I worked on, the women were the #1 reason we even had a boat. And I love it. I just love when a guy gets mad when he gets beat by a girl. There's nothing better. So
well, we'll keep that tradition going as we can.
Yeah, keep doing it. All right.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. And then ladies, just stand by. We're going to do the raffle now. We had people buying the raffle tickets in advance online. And we didn't sell very many. But today, some people came in, like Deborah Graham. She brought 12 tickets. Megan came in. Somebody else came in. So I was going to draw just for the Costa certificate. But since you all came in, I'm going to draw for the Costa, the Frog Togs, and the Hobie. To let the Yeti go was 100 ticket minimum. So we'll just leave your tickets in there. If we get up to 100, we will do another drawing and just do it live on Facebook. So let me share my screen again and find it. And here it is. Share. Okay, so tell me if you can all see it. You can nod. Okay, so this is a random draw, and the way I do it is when somebody, that's why I close it off earlier. And you can see these names are in there multiple times with a number after them. So you will see, I think Megan Brunelli, they're all 8s. Or what? Let me check that one. Okay. Let me check my original. Okay, for Megan, she has. Okay, well, Shers came in last, so I couldn't number them, so they're all going to say 8 because she got 8 tickets. All right. So what I'm going to do is draw it, and we'll see who wins. So the person at the top is the winner. Okay, so ready? Here we go. For the Costa certificate for anything, and I'll show you what they look like next, but anything you want from Costa up to $300 is Andrea Buter. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You are here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for buying your tickets. And then next we're going to do $100 in certificates for Frog Togs. I love the rain gear. If you've ever seen them, they make the woven and the breathable and the non-woven. And the difference is the non-woven. The one of them the one that feels like paper. That's the one you can leave in your car. The other kind you shouldn't leave it any reindeer in the heat because then the seals break. So here's the winner for, it's two $50 certificates for Frog Togs. And the winner is Joanne Salvador. Okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and give away the Hobie, whatever you want. I'll show you what they look like when we're done. And so this is the last drawing. Let's see who's number one. Deborah Graham. Congratulations, Deborah. She's bought her tickets today, like 12 of them, but she's not here right now. Okay, so Andrea, I will send you the codes and congratulations.
Thank
Joanne,
you. Actually, I need new glasses. Perfect.
perfect, yes. And Joanne, I will scan that for you, and Deborah, I will email you the link to order your Hobies. So thank you very much. And even though it was below the minimum, I did give away 3 prizes. And I'm going to close the share screen now. Stop share. So you all saw it. And congratulations. I'm going to, for instance, well, this is kind of the style I like. These are my Hobies. And these are called Snook. And I love these. They've got, you know, the kind of wrap around, they keep your eyes protected. They're all polarized. And then, of course, I like the same kind of styles. This is Costa Fantail. So pretty much I migrate to this, but some people like the aviators. Some people like the more rounded ones. I have my flying fisherman here.
I like the ones where you can get a prescription on.
Yeah, well, the Hobie, the Costas, I'll explain that to you. It's 50% off, but the total value of the certificate is $300. And these we have also on an auction. These are flying fishermen.
Nice. They're pretty.
Yes.
They look nice on you, Betty.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, if you were wondering what I was doing earlier, my cat came to visit me. So she says hi. And for some reason, she wouldn't leave me alone. Hi, everybody. Okay, that's enough for cat time. I don't know. She never comes up, and then when I'm on Zoom, she comes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the Facebook feed and the recording. So give me 1 second. And thanks for those. If you didn't get to buy raffle tickets, get on our email list, and we'll let you know when we're going to do the next one. Okay, so we're stopping the live stream. And I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you very